Now, as I travel around the world, I frequently try to return to places where I've seen hundreds of thousands, even millions of bats in the past. And I can't tell you how disappointing it is to go back expecting to see something like this and see no bats at all because some fool who is misinformed about bats set fire to the cave or dynamited or did something else to kill the bats. So why should we be really concerned about the plight of bats? And let me point out that today, right here in America, bats are our most rapidly declining mammals. With all the challenges that people face, why spend time studying bats? Well, let me point out that oftentimes the single best thing we can do for people is to help heal the damage we've done to nature. I'm now going to tell you my very first experience of international bat conservation. These monks at Khao Chang Pran Cave in Thailand made their living selling bat guano fertilizer. Sales were plummeting. They didn't know why. They asked me if I could investigate and figure out why guano production was down. It didn't take me very long to figure out that it was because poachers were sneaking in at night and setting nets over the cave entrance, killing many tens of thousands of bats and selling them for people to eat in restaurants. I convinced them to hire a game warden. 10 years later, I returned again, and guano sales had gone from $12,000 a year to $89,000 a year. And a few years after that, they passed $135,000 a year. Not only that, but the emergences became so impressive that they attracted the attention of biologists. And a few of these pictures I show you down at the bottom, the citation in case you want to look up the paper that documents what we're talking about. A group of international biologists came to Khao Chang Pran and looked into the impact of these bats in controlling white-bellied planthoppers, one of the most costly crop pests of rice all across Southeast Asia. They concluded that this one restored colony of bats was saving local rice farmers a conservatively estimated $300,000 US annually. And as the bats became still more spectacular, they started attracting thousands of tourists. And the locals were quick to take advantage of the tourism. Unfortunately, I haven't yet convinced anybody to go back and do a full economic study, but what we need more than anything in some of these cases is to have someone go back and do a really good scientifically conducted economic study to show just how much conservation means to people. But I dream that one of these days we'll document that those bats are probably worth in excess of $1 million a year now to one small community in Thailand. And with that kind of experience, I've been more and more encouraged to educate people wherever I go. We as scientists have a responsibility. If we don't communicate to the rest of the world beyond our colleagues about the importance of nature and protecting it, who will? It's my goal to always leave more bats behind than when I arrived. What I mean is convince people to protect them better so that there will be more next time rather than fewer. This family right here in Thailand met a single bat researcher years ago who got them excited about their painted bats, pointed out that they could be an interesting tourist attraction, and now that family carefully protects the largest remaining population known of painted bats. Here, the Philippine government was just ready to forcibly have the largest bat cave remaining in the Philippines buried under farmland. I was asked by the owners of the cave to come and intercede on their behalf. It took me less than an hour to present a public lecture on bats in which I showed that the bats from that one cave could pollinate literally tens of millions of durian flowers in a single night. That's a multi-billion-dollar a year fruit crop, one of the favored ones from that part of the world. 1 hour later, I'm seated with the mayor. Community leaders were signed a successful petition to have that cave protected as critical habitat, and today it is protected as critical habitat and has a major interpretive center associated with it, educating people from all over the world about bats. We know the story of Bracken Cave. When I first came to Texas, all you could hear about free-tailed bats in Texas was that they were rabid and dangerous. Today we have at least 12 major viewing sites where millions of these bats are protected as a tourist attraction for people from all over the world. Now, while you hear about the problems of raising money for research, let me point out that communicating with the public may not be the shortest route to getting outside funding, but it's certainly an excellent route. In my career, I have raised tens of millions of dollars for research and conservation on bats, and never once got 1 penny from the NSF, NIH, or any of the other major funders you're supposed to go to for money. I did it all by doing good science and learning to entertain people and showing the relevance of how what I was doing was going to help them. Here's a good example. Peter Taylor, a colleague of mine in South Africa, discovered that bats were the primary predators of green stink bugs, the most costly pest of macadamia orchards. He had the data, but he didn't have pictures. And as I'll point out later, and as you already know, one good picture is worth 1,000 words. So I went to South Africa, Paul and I did, and photographed bats catching green stink bugs. I gave one presentation to the Macadamia Growers Association, and immediately thereafter, they funded not just one, but 2 full PhD level research programs on how to attract more bats to macadamia orchards. Once we start doing things that people can see the relevance of, communicate what we do well, entertain them well, we're on the right track to security.